So today we're going to dive into a really profound idea, and it comes from the ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita. It tackles one of life's biggest questions with an analogy that's so simple you'd never expect it. Just a change of clothes. You know, it's a question we've all probably asked ourselves at some point, right? What happens when this physical journey ends? Well, the Bhagavad Gita gives us an answer that feels both incredibly ancient and, well, surprisingly easy to grasp.
Okay, so this is the verse that really sets the stage for this whole idea. And basically what it says is this. Just like a person puts on new clothes and gives up their old ones, the soul does the same thing. It accepts a new body and gives up the old, useless one. It's a powerful thought, isn't it? Our bodies aren't us. They're just temporary. Like a shirt.
So let's break this down because it's such a cool visual. On one side, you've got a person just changing their clothes, something we do every single day without a second thought. And on the other, you've got the soul, or dehī, doing the exact same thing, but with bodies. The key takeaway here is that you are not your body. The body is just something you're wearing for a while.
And you know, this idea of the body constantly changing isn't just some ancient mystical concept. The source text makes a great point. Even science today recognizes that our bodies are always in flux. Think about it. From the moment we're born, through our childhood, and into old age, we are literally in a state of continuous transformation. It's happening right in front of our eyes.
Okay, so if the body is like a garment, that brings up a big question, right? How does the soul actually, change outfits? The text doesn't just throw this idea out there. It actually explains the mechanics of how this journey works.
And the key to this whole process, this whole transition, is a concept called the supersoul. The supersoul is described as a constant friend to the individual soul. It's this supersoul that actually makes the transfer possible, kind of like a guide helping us move from one life, one body, to the next, based on what we desire.
To make this relationship even clearer, the text gives us another amazing analogy from the Vedas. I want you to picture this, a tree. And on that tree, you've got two friendly birds sitting side by side on the same branch. They're together, but they're doing very, very different things.
So one of these birds, that's us, the individual soul, is just going to town, eating all the fruits on the tree. It's completely absorbed, captivated by the taste, and honestly, a little anxious about it all. But the other bird, the supersoul, it's just watching, calmly. It's not eating anything, it's just there, being a steady, present witness for its friend. One is lost in the experience, the other is the master of it. And that brings up a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? If they're friends, sitting on the very same tree, why is one of them all stressed out while the other is just perfectly chill? Well, the text has a very specific answer for that.
And the answer, according to the text, is actually pretty simple, but so profound. It all comes down to forgetfulness. The individual soul, that little eating bird, gets so wrapped up in the fruits, the temporary pleasures and pains of the material world, that it completely forgets about its best friend sitting right there next to it. And that forgetfulness is the root cause of its anxiety and the very reason it keeps having to change trees or bodies.
But here's the good news. The text doesn't just point out the problem, it lays out a clear four-step path to get back to that peaceful state. So, you start with the struggling soul, completely engrossed in the tree. Then it makes a choice. It turns its face towards its friend, the witness. By doing that, it starts to understand who that friend really is, to see its glories. And the result? All that suffering and anxiety just melts away.
And to really drive this home, the source quotes the Upanishads directly. It says that the very moment that struggling bird turns and really sees its friend, it, at once, becomes free from all anxieties. It's not a long, drawn-out process. The freedom is immediate.
Now you gotta remember, this wasn't just some philosophical lecture in a quiet room. This whole incredible teaching was happening on a battlefield. It was given to a warrior, Arjuna, who was absolutely heartbroken because he was about to go into battle against his own family, his grandfather, his teacher, everyone he respected.
So this new perspective was meant to completely shift how he saw his terrible dilemma. He was told, don't grieve over them changing their body garments. In fact, by fighting this righteous battle, their souls would actually be cleansed and they'd be promoted to a better life. So when you look at it that way, there was actually no reason for him to be so sad.
And that's what I want to leave you with. Let's just sit with that for a second. If we really truly took on this perspective, that our body is just a set of clothes we're wearing for a while, how would that change everything? How would you look at your life, your relationships, your purpose, and even death itself?